Hey everybody, as many of you know, this week the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has resumed their discharges of water from Lake Okeechobee into the Indian River Lagoon. Now, we are in a war for our water, and in turn for the health and the safety and the members of our family, the members of our community, our environment, our local economy. That's the war that we're in right now when we're talking about the war for our water. And war is one thing that I can speak about very well. It's one thing that I know as well as anybody. And I know that in any war that there are many battles that occur. And sometimes you win the day, but sometimes even when you've done absolutely everything that is possible to do out there, you don't carry the day. But the way that I was raised and the way I came up in the military, you still go back out the next night, the next day, and bring the fight again with everything that you have. And you keep doing that every single day, whether your last moment was a win or a loss. And you do it until you finally won your entire war. And that's how I fight for our water each and every day. Every day in the last couple of weeks that our coast has avoided these discharges from Lake Okeechobee, that has been a victory. Each and every day was a day that was fought for, and that was a victory that the community fought for. And it's not a victory that occurred on accident or that we somehow just walked into. It was a whole community effort that each citizen, our commissioners, our state reps, all of us here in Washington that are working on your behalf, that we brought to fruition. And this is something to be proud of. Now, I couldn't be more concerned about the water that is now being released from Lake Okeechobee. I recently spoke on the House floor, as I do each week on this issue, inserting into the congressional record everything that's going on, and that ahead of the algae that's headed to our community, that the Congress know that it's testing for 150 parts per billion, a level that is 15 times higher what any human should come in contact with in terms of cyanobacteria and microcystin algae. And I've spoken to the Corps of Engineers in length about this, and they will not budge on their need to lower the level of Lake Okeechobee in an effort to protect the 36,000 people that are south of Lake Okeechobee from the potential of a devastating flood if heavy rains were to hit our area and cause the lake levels to rapidly rise. That's something that the Corps of Engineers cannot and will not budge on. Now, when I was disarming bombs in the military, I had to constantly weigh the risks of what I was doing as well, and I was weighing those risks. My risk matrix looked like this. What is probable versus what is possible? And I see that choice here today. It is possible that such a storm comes that could cause the dike around Lake Okeechobee to fail, but that doesn't make it probable. And the reality is that it's not just probable that the health of each person in the Treasure Coast is put at risk by the discharges of water from Lake Okeechobee that is 15 times greater in toxic content than what any human should come in contact with. It is a certainty that our health is immediately put at risk. That is our reality. Our community did not create this problem. Our community did not create the conditions on Lake Okeechobee that lead to this problem, and it is absolutely absurd that we are being forced to have the health of our citizens placed at risk this summer, last summer, the summer before, year after year. Now, earlier this week, I called for a federal state of emergency to be declared, and the news of these discharges, it only reinforces that need. The volume of discharges of fresh water into our estuary, even at their cleanest levels, are not healthy for the ecology of our estuary. Now, with the algae that is headed our way, we need the cavalry brought in, and that's exactly what I said on the floor. We need every bit of water cleanup operation that can be brought in from FEMA and the Coast Guard and the Fish and Wildlife and anybody else under whatever auspices it takes for them to do that. We need the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to be reaching out to the federal EPA and saying, we need your help in this situation. We need that state of emergency that was declared at the state level for these conditions to result in action. What is the plan of action to go out there and respond to this emergency situation? And we need that action taken care of immediately. Now, the Army Corps of Engineers has the authority under Section 7-13 to take actions during pollution emergencies to mitigate the impact. And I will continue to fight for them to use that discretion. They acknowledge the nutrients and the toxicity, but they flat out do not weigh that risk to be greater than the risk of dike failure. So I'm going to keep fighting, keep doing all I can to stop the poisoning of our community. I'm going to continue to do all I can to protect the hundreds of thousands of people on the Treasure Coast and increase the days where we win those battles. That's my goal, to win that battle every day so that we have no discharges, where we secured a commitment. And these are some of the battles that we've already won. We won that battle to secure a commitment to redo the Lake Okeechobee regulation schedule, and we will authorize through Congress the Southern Storage Reservoir to create a place to send this dirty water south instead of into our backyard. That was a winning battle that we had. We put a placeholder into the Water Resources and Development Act so that we could drop that in. That was a win that we had, and we will bring that to fruition. And I know that you will continue to fight as well. And together, we will overcome this abuse of our community. And together, we will overcome the decades of bad decision making that have led to this issue. And we will. We will have days that we don't win, but we will continue to fight for the long-term solution that we need. And we'll add those victories like the ones that we had this week. The good news from the White House that came in saying their budget office has approved our Southern Storage Reservoir plan. I got on the phone numerous times with Mick Mulvaney from the Office of Management and Budget to work on them in doing this. I sat in the office of the South Florida Water Management District one day and made that phone call to the director of OMB while they were sitting right in front of me because they were telling me, hey, we need this help. We will add more victories day after day after day, like getting the full funding of hundreds of millions of dollars to bring the repairs of the Herbert Hoover Dike to completion ahead of schedule. That was a major victory that we recently had, and we're going to keep adding to those victories. Now I want to discuss two more things briefly before I wrap this message up. First of all is H.R. 200. This is a bill that I voted on this week in order to open up recreational fishing opportunities. Now I had some people say after this vote, how could you vote for a bill which could allow our fisheries to be depleted? Well, I've got news for the people that say that. Every time that we catch a fish, we deplete a fishery. That's something that inherently happens, but it's not us going out there on rod and reel that's going to have these devastating effects. But what I really ask myself is, when did we become a country where a man or a woman can't go out with their children and drop a line in the water and pull a fish out? I don't know when we as individuals lost that right to just go out on the water and go fishing. But I am certainly proud to work to return that right to each individual. Now lastly, we released the second episode of the documenting of the poison of our water, the toll on our health, on our economy, and our entire way of life, what I call the tortured coast. This week's episode is all about the River Kids, a group from the Treasure Coast who've seen their summers ruined year after year, have decided to take matters into their own hands. Last month, they joined me here in Washington to share their stories with other lawmakers from Florida, other lawmakers from around the country, lawmakers that I sit on very important committees with that have to do with the fixing of our broken system, as well as the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Colonel Kirk, who manages our area. They sat down with him and a number of other individuals as well. I was proud to see them standing in defense of their community. You can hear more about everything that they did, their passionate efforts to make a difference in our community. You can hear about it on our Facebook page or on mass.house.gov/torturedcoast and sign up there for the upcoming episodes that we'll have coming out as well, trying to release one every week documenting everything that's going on. We will continue fighting till the end of this destruction of our community comes to an end. We're going to continue fighting to protect our kids, to keep our families safe, and to send that water south where Mother Nature intended it to go. As always, it's an honor to represent you here in Congress. I hope every single one of you have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you all around town. All the best.